Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the third round of the Pacific GT title. Today we are at Shanghai GP with a grid of GT3 cars to battle it out for the title. It's a great battle so far after 2 rounds, both visiting the Sepang circuit and followed quickly by the second round as well. Both rounds back-to-back Sundays each, and it is a fierce competition that's undergoing right now on the circuit. We have 20 minutes of qualifying before we go over to the race session, where they will have to endure the Shanghai circuit for 2 hours before they are awarded their points accordingly. Unfortunately, there aren't any GT500s here with us this afternoon, so it will just be GT3s battling it out, and it's a very tight championship between them so far. 6 positions all tied in terms of points as we approach the penultimate round. And if we go through the current standings for you, just give you a rough idea of what we're looking at and what we have upcoming so far. So after Fuji Speedway, which was round 2, we've got the 87 from F1 Bros Racing that are leading with 50 points. A great performance from both rounds in that McLaren 720S of theirs, and they're able to lead by just 6 points, because in second place is Secura Racing in their 177 Porsche with 44 points. And then in third it is Team Rookie Monsters with Simon Marshall with 32 points on board as well. So very tightly knit pack of the top 3 positions as well. But close behind in fourth place we have 33 from Fair Racing Team Audi, 30 points on the board for them. Followed by 17 PMK Sim Racing, 28 points on the board from them. And then Team RSI, both tied with 26 points with 91 from Shell My Racing. And then tied also for 8th is Auto Motorsports in the 99 with Team RSI Audi with 18 points. So that's the current standings for you as we approach the third round. And as I said, we've now in 5 minutes of qualifying with a 2-hour race ahead of us. So let's pop down onto the circuit and see who is where and who is looking like they are able to claim the pole position here at the Shanghai circuit. So far, it is the number 13 from Daniel Vidamari and Team RSI with a 202.093 on the board. That Porsche 911 doing well in these high-speed corners as the rear engine is putting weight on those tyres at the back end of that axle. In second place, we've got Martin Ulrich in the 41. That's M Technology on the board with a 202.440 on his 4th flying lap so far. And in third, we have Dylan Tarboten in the number 12 with a 202.532, the last remaining podium position here this afternoon for the GT3s. Gregor Spillat is taking the helm for Secura Racing, taking 4th place so far with a 202.663. And then it's Daniel Ersling as well with the 87, claiming the last of the top 5 positions, 202.848. So 0.7 seconds separating the top 5 positions thus far, with still plenty of time to go before qualifying is all said and done. Going out of the top 5 though, we have Christos Ikunes in the 36 with a 202.9, so he's just gone into the 202s as well. And even Chris Gonzalez in the 57 as well, he's decided to post 1 lap in the 202s as well. So starting to become quite a tightly knit pack here in the GT3s. It has been so far throughout the season as well. Extremely competitive up and down the field, and it shows in the points as well. As having said that, moving down further the order, outside the top 10 is Alberto Zanotti in the 89. That's a 203, the first of the 203s in fact, to show on our board. And then we have the 48 from NJ Motorsport in 12th place, 203.294 on the board. Paul Holt in the 33 for Fair Racing, which is a fairly odd performance considering where they are in the championship standings, 203.598 here, and that's good enough for 13th place. 14th place is Iga Zolfikar, I think it's pronounced, so I apologise if I've butchered that. It's a 204.613. And then we have the 72 with Rafael Caballero, 209.8. So obviously you've got held up in traffic or some issues there, because that's way off the pace there. 7.7 seconds off the pace in fact. Then we have the number 3 with Ezio Gazzola with Chaos Engineering. He's attending in 16th place overall, not to set a lap just as of yet. So that is the current standing of things for you. with still 10 minutes remaining. Daniel Vidamari still holding on to that pole position with a 2:02.093. So next competitor down is Martin Ulrich with a 41 of M Technology, 0.347 seconds to gain if he's going to demote Team RSI from that podium position. So let's have a quick on-board look of where he is, just coming through Sector 2 at the moment. And what we'll do, ladies and gents, is when he goes across the start-finish line, we will go on board and give you a personal cockpit view of Shanghai Circuit. Now, Shanghai Circuit is, of course, used in the Formula 1 calendar, as is in many other calendars as well. Very technical circuit, a combination of slow and high-speed corners as well. And that makes it tricky to set up the cars here, because you need to get that finely tuned balance to suit every single sector here. Of course, you've got the fast-flowing sector of turns 1, and then it slows right down for turns 2 and 3 as well. Just a few examples. And then if you go into sector 2, you've got the sweeping corners of 7 and 8 before it slows again right down for turns 9 and 10. So you have to be awake at all times, paying attention, and it's very hard to master this circuit, which is why I think we're seeing quite a few different variations in performance in the GT3 field here. So we're on board with Martin Ulrich at the moment. His lap time isn't going to be better this time by, I don't think. He's setting greens, not purples. Although it did have a purple sector 1 by 0.2 seconds, so he may go green here, but it won't be enough, I don't think. Oh, and as he says that, he spins, so must be under pressure from the commentator here. But let's go over to the next competitive car. We're going with Dylan Tarboten. He's currently sitting in 3rd place in that number 12 McLaren 720S. So let's go on board. Okay, so coming down the start-finish straight under the UBS sponsored sign and straight into turn 1. A very technical corner. You've got to coast your way into the apex here. And as he goes off track, so he's decided to cancel that lap. So we will get a flying lap, ladies and gents, I promise you. Someone that's not actually going to retire to the pit lane. Fingers crossed. Dylan Tarboten, just for the information there, did go quicker than his personal best and moved up to 3rd place. Gregor Spielat, in the meantime, has improved as well. He's gone up to 2nd place with a 2:02.2. So improvements going all around and changes on the podium positions. Let's have a look at the live timing. See if we've got someone that's coming into the last final corner. Daniel Ersling, in fact, just moved up into 7th place after that lap. Moving down the main straight, coming up towards the first corner, down into 4th gear. Use that engine braking as much as possible. You want to stay off the brake to carry as much speed as possible. Then you want to rise up just over to the left-hand side before cutting back down onto the apex of turn 2. Hug that inside line and then let the car just run out to the right as you exit down towards into sector 2. There's a quick flick to the right hand side for turn 5 underneath the helix sponsor, and then over to the left, braking at 100 meters. Keep to the left hand side because you want a nice run on the exit here, which he doesn't seem to want to continue this lap either, so that is not good. Maybe we can pick off where he left off. So the 41 is just going through sector 3. We'll go on board with them just in a minute because they want to improve on their personal best because they're sitting currently in 5th place. They've been demoted by Auto Motorsport. They've been demoted by RSA Sim Races and Secura Racing as well. So they've lost 3 positions in the space of 2 minutes. So that we'll be on board with them for their flying lap. And Technology, of course, had a great performance at this year's Petit Le Mans, so definitely a team to watch out for. Good, consistent performance and ready to do the work that needs to be done. So he's coming across the start-finish line now. Once again, we'll start from scratch here on this flying lap, going down the back straight, over to the left-hand side once again, same as we saw with the McLaren, and then just down 1 gear, 2 gears, carrying that speed as much as possible, minimize that braking to carry that momentum, and then cut down to the apex of turn 2, swoop back over to the left hand side and let the speed just gradually increase because there's not a lot of grip here on the exit of 3 and 4, and then back up to speed. Stay on the right hand side for the kink of turn 5 and then back over to the left at 100 meters, braking heavily and going as deep as into the corner as much as possible. Accelerating once again, sector 2, this is the fast flowing stuff. Carrying the speed through, stay to the right, staying in 4th gear, use that engine brake to slow the car down if needed. You want to be over to the left hand side or at least the centre of the circuit for turns 8. Hug the inside, remaining there until you brake heavily for turns 9 as well. This slow part of the corner. And then back up to 3rd gear for the exit. On the run down to sector 3 now. It's going to be staying over to the right hand side. 100 metres once again, braking heavily down into 1st gear. Went a bit deep there than expected because you want to keep that momentum flowing into the long right-hander of turns 12 and 13. And this is the important corner here. You need to maximise the momentum and the speed coming out of turns 13 because you've got the longest straight here at Shanghai, getting full up to speed in 6th gear in this Audi R8. And we'll stay on the left-hand side because it's going to be all the way back down to the bottom end of the spectrum. And getting that lovely apex as best he can. Doesn't do too bad there actually, considering. Had a bit of join lag halfway through his braking points that might have chucked him off pace a tiny bit. And then last corner is very tricky indeed. Not a lot of grip there, and it's a blind apex as it rises upwards before coming back down again. Comes across the line in 4th place, so it is an improvement there for the 41 from Eng Technology, but not enough to get back onto those podium positions that he was holding to previously. So that's unfortunate news for him. In the meantime, Daniel Vidamari did improve on his personal best with a 201.955. So good performance there from the Team RSI driver. And Chris Gonzalez in the 57 from Fair Racing Team Porsche also come up into 2nd. As I just said, that Dylan Tarboton has demoted him from that position. 202.118 on the board. So that number 12 McLaren showing its true pace here at Shanghai and securing 2nd place for the time being. So let's go and run through the order and just get an idea of how close the qualifying is here for the GT3 grid. Danny Vidamari set a 201.955. Dylan Tarboton is only 0.163 seconds off that podium position. Chris Gonzalez, who is behind, 0.196 seconds off that podium position. And then we have Gregor Spilak, who's 0.2 seconds behind, and then the next 2 cars are 0.3 seconds behind. So the top 6 are separated by 0.3 seconds overall. That is incredible performance from the GT3 pack. And you don't have to go further back to see Simon Marshall, who's only 0.6 seconds off that podium pace as well. So extremely good grid here for this afternoon. And no doubt they'll go wheel to wheel once qualifying is finished. Currently watching the 3rd place car, driven by Chris Gonzalez. Oh, and Autumn Motorsports take the pole position with Wesley Boycott. What a performance there. 201.573. That's 0.3 seconds faster than Daniel Vidamari there. So out of the bag, out of nowhere. Not even in the top 5 positions for the 99, and then really put it all together when it mattered for the last few minutes here of qualifying. Only 3 minutes remaining here. There is usually 40 minutes for both the GT500s and for the GT3s, but because there's only GT3s here today, the qualifying will finish in just 3 minutes. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the video and follow us for more action as well. Before we get this race started, of course, we're still following the qualifying session, but you can head over to our website at checkerflagendurance.com, sign up for the GT500s if that's what takes your fancy, or even some GT3 action as well. So all is to play for, as next week we go to Okayama, a great circuit, very technical, very narrow if you fancy some traffic management challenges. And I'm sure some of the GT3s are going to be there as well, especially the ones that are leading the championship here this afternoon. So to give you a summary of where we stand in terms of the standings, it is F1 Bros Racing who have it all to lose here. They're currently sitting in 7th place in qualifying at the moment with their McLaren 720, and they've got 50 points, which is only 6 points ahead of the 2nd place team. And that is Chequered Racing, 44 points on the board after 2 rounds. And they're faring slightly better because they're sitting in P5 with Gregor Spilak at the moment. Then we have the 73 with Simon Marshall, Team Rookie Monsters, with 32 points. They're also having a good performance, but they're behind the current leaders in 8th And then we have Fair Racing Team Audi with 30 points on the board, and they're not doing too great either because they're 13th place. So a lot of opportunities opening here for some of the teams that are lower down in the standings. They could leapfrog a lot of cars here and even be putting in a challenge for the championship lead come Okayama. But of course, this is only qualifying. A lot can happen during the next 2 hours of the race, and we'll just have to wait and see what unfolds in a few moments' time. David Amari improves on his personal best, 201.447. Another podium position for him. He's just regained that by another 1/10 of a second. Does everything he needs to do. Team RSI, very consistent, very popular amongst the viewers here. And once again showing that they have what it takes to put down the pace when it matters. Now Team RSI haven't had much luck in terms of the championship at the moment. Number 13 is on 26 points, which is with Daniel Vidamari. So he's had a few rough starts, or he's had a few incidents, unfortunately, especially at Sepang. And the other car, which is the 88, which is driven by Alicia Felito, 18 points on the board. So unfortunately, they're not doing the best that they deserve, or they're not getting the results that they deserve, should I say. They're a very strong team, very competitive, but unfortunately, luck goes against you in some ways. And we're now on the final lap of qualifying as we reach the 20-minute mark. So is there going to be any response from the 99 from Automotive Sports? He's currently going around the circuit at the moment. He's coming into Sector 3. Let's have a look at the live timing, see if he's got any purple sectors here for Wesley Boycott. Currently, as things stand, it is not. He's going green, but he's 0.2 off in Sector 2, so I don't think he's going to have what it takes to improve on his personal best. We just have to wait a few more moments to see what the final result will be. And he's moving over to the right-hand side of the circuit. That's going to be to allow his colleague to go through. And that's in the form of the 89, and they're currently sitting in P12 at the moment, so no improvement there. And he decides to cancel the lap at the finish anyway, so that is qualifying said and done. The only person that's still going is Gregos Bielat, currently sitting in P6, as Christos Sikunes for Team Rookie Monsters goes faster. And he's crossing the line. Is an improvement for Gregos Bielat? Yes, it is. Third place there for Secura Racing in the 177. Last minute ditch attempt to secure that podium position, and he just about gets it in the nick of time. Just goes to show how close the competition is here in the GT3 category. We're going to have one hell of a race here at Shanghai. 17 cars on the grid. Trevor Holden joining at the last few moments, but no lap set by him. Not enough time to do so. And that's going to be it for qualifying here this afternoon for the third round of Pacific GT. We'll be right back after these adverts, ladies and gents. Don't go anywhere. Hello one and all, and welcome back to the live stream for the third round of the Pacific GT series. We are live at Shanghai GP and about to get the race underway as the cars and the teams line up behind the safety car before it begins its warm-up lap. We have 17 cars on the grid for you, all of which are GT3s. Not really sure what's happened to the GT500s. I think they're all on strike. Not too sure, but that won't take away from the action here this afternoon because the GT3s are looking mightily competitive with one another. And Daniel Vidimari has claimed pole position just by the skin of his teeth, though, by 1/10 of a second. Apologies. And right behind him, or alongside him, for the start is Alton Motorsports in the form of the 99. And in third place, a last-minute ditch attempt by Gregor Spielat allowed him to secure that third place position in that 177 for Secura Racing. Dylan Tarboten, a newcomer for the series as well, in that number 12 McLaren 720S, just stormed the grid here this afternoon, claiming fourth position. Were in second for quite some time, but weren't able to hang on to those podium positions, unfortunately. And then alongside in fifth place is Chris Gonzalez in the 57 for Fair Racing as well. So here comes the safety car. It's beginning the warm-up lap. We've already been discussing and talking about each of the individual teams. And we've just reached the top 5 in qualifying if you're just joining the action. Christos Sekunaz in the McLaren 720S as well in the 36, able to secure 6th place on the grid. And then in 7th, it's Martin Oric for M Technology in that 41 Audi R8. The current championship leaders in the form of the 87 from F1 Bros Racing, Daniel Ersling, is all the way down in 8th place. So there's a lot of work to do there if he's going to be able to defend his title from would-be competitors. In third place is Chaos Engineering with Ezio Gazzola in 9th. And then Simon Marshall for Team Rookie Monsters in the 73, just in the last remaining top 10 positions. The number 7 F1 Bros Racing with Tim Schaefer in 11th, and then in 12th place is the second of the Alton Motorsports cars, the 89. Paul Holt in the 33 is in 13th place for the other Fair Racing team, and the McLaren 720S of the number 9, which is Iga Swiatek, is in 14th. Rafael Caballero in the 72 Aston Martin is in 15th, and then the last remaining position goes to Trevor Holden for Madness Racing in the 98 machine. So that is your lineup of cars in the GT3 grid for you. They're just making their way around the Shanghai circuit as we speak. It's a very long warm-up lap here, so you've got to look after those temperatures, look after those tyres as best you can before they all get unleashed onto the circuit. And of course, what will be going through a driver's mind at this point, you've got to think of how the brake temperature's doing, what's the tyre temperature, where do I want to place my car at the start of this race, especially when you are in that all-important position of Daniel Vidimari. He's on the pole position, and that means that he will decide when is the time to go. He's going to be the first to cross the designated start line, and he's going to be having the opportunity to position his car as politically as possible to make sure that he doesn't lose that position at the start of this race. Coming through Sector 3 now. This is going to be a very important corner at the start of this race as well. That long straight that leads down into turns 14, and that's going to provide a huge slipstream to anyone behind. And of course, that's going to be another thing on Daniel Vidimari's mind. If he does hang on to this first place position after the first and second sector, he's going to be a sitting duck when they all start coming down this back straight. So just coming down the back straight now, small glitches, some of them are disappearing. Good, gotta love Rfactor2 physics there. A neat feature for the McLaren 720S, of course, shed some body weight rather, in order to lighten the load for the start of this race, but it all came back as well. They wanted to hide that from the race directors. Last few corners then for the safety car. Trust the old Corvette C7 there, or C6 even, do apologise. It will peel off to the pit entry lane on the right hand side before allowing all of the GT3s onto the main start finish straight. And it's all down to Daniel Vidimari now, as he has to wait until he gets to the start-finish line before the UBS sign. Has to wait just a few moments. Some of the cars are starting to wiggle. And we are racing. Daniel Vidimari off to a good start there. The 99 struggling to get up to pace in that Porsche 911. Tucks himself behind already. So a good, decent start there from the 13 of Team RSI. Meanwhile, further behind, we've got teams going three wires. Gregor Spulak opting for the outside line there. He's going to lose out massively as Dylan Tarboten in the number 12 and also the 57 challenge for that position. Hugging the inside line for turns 3 and 4. And he gets demoted only by one position. That could have ended a lot worse than what it did. Here comes Chris Sakuna as he tries to take away that position from Chris Gonzalez in the Fair Racing Porsche, but not able to get alongside just as of yet in that McLaren. Gregor Spulak just has a little peep outside into turns 5, trying to demote or regain that third place position from RSA Sim Races, but not able to do so as of yet. Down into Sector 2, we've got M Technology going too wide with Team Rookie Monsters here. Simon Marshall on the defensive, but the Audi has the better grip on the outside line for turns 8. Here comes the Aston straight back at him though, and trying to get that inside line. 41 though has the advantage for the slower corner turn 8, and here comes the number 3 as well. Small mistake there though from Ezio as he tries to regain or tackle the back of that Aston Martin into order. That's going to cost him a few more positions though, because here comes Daniel Ersling down on the inside with that McLaren 720S. He smells blood in the water because he's just taken that position away and already up into P9. The number 3 makes a collision with that F1 Bros Racing car. That's a championship leader, might I remind you. And he's just had a bit of a knock there on the rear right fender of that McLaren. And it's now a drag race between Aston Martin and McLaren down the long straight here at Shanghai for the first lap. What a action-packed few minutes we've just had there as it all come piling down into the apex. Back to the leaders though. Team RSI still have a slightly comfortable lead as Gregor Spulak goes up on the inside of the number 12. Great manoeuvre there by the Porsche, and he takes back that third place with ease. All coming into the last corner though, and on to the end of the first lap. That McLaren looking very eager to retake and reclaim that podium position. Daniel Vidimari setting the fastest lap as he has the clear air ahead of him. Gregor Spulak now trying to hug the inside line for turns 1. And the McLaren going deep into the corner as well. Who's going to have the advantage? Oh, Gregor Spulak losing a bit of ground there as the McLaren sneaks up the inside. Shuts the door just in the nick of time before reaching the apex of turns 2 and 3. And away they go once more. Dylan Tarboten still hanging on. In the meantime, further back actions unfolding left, right and centre. Looks like we have Chaos Engineering in the 16s made a mistake and all the way down to the back of the grid in 16th place. So obviously a bit of cold tyres issues there for the team. That means that the 87 has moved out into 12th place as well. So having issues of their own, but still making slight progress here at Shanghai. Starting to get a train effect appearing here in the top 5. Here comes the Porsche from Fair Racing. Looks very hard on the brakes. Just about missed the back end of that McLaren of Dylan Tarboten, and using the runoff area available on the right hand side of the circuit as well. Just about kept it within track limits. So all the teams are pushing here. Of course, 1 hour and 56 minutes still remaining. Daniel Vidimari setting purple sectors and purple laps in the meantime, so extending that lead over the 99 of Automotive Sports. And there's a slight gap between second and third place as well. It's all down to the slipstream now as they all come piling down once more into the hairpin. McLaren is alongside their 2 wide here. Gregor Spulak, Secura Racing and RSA Sim Races. A bit of a knock there from that Porsche. So you've got to be careful about contact here. And that's just piled. And that's allowed Christos Sukunas in that McLaren 720S behind as well. He's moved up into P5. They're 2 wide through the last corner. They make a slight bit of contact there between him and Chris Gonzalez. And that's for the Fair Racing Team Porsche. And he's able to claim that position now into the top 5 positions. Going too wide into turn 1. This is great stuff here from the GT3 fight. The 36 defending that inside line. The Porsche using all of the grass as well, trying to make his own version of Shanghai GP in his efforts. And all this fighting has allowed that podium position battle to get away just ever so slightly. Dylan has still been able to attach himself on to Rfactor2, and we've got a retirement. That's the 99. So the 99 from Auto Motorsports has retired. Not too sure what happened there, but that means that he won't get any points, unfortunately. Danny Vidamari still up ahead on the road by about 5 seconds. Rfactor2 now promoted into second place. So maybe there was an incident or a crash. Not too sure, but I'm sure we'll have to investigate that later. Maybe we'll get a post in the live marshalling as to what happened. Okay, so Team RSI is still leading the way. Great battle for third, unfolding as Christos Sakunas is closing that gap down once more as we approach the end of lap 3. McLaren seem fairly strong, as do the Porsches here at this particular circuit. Oh, and Dylan Tarboten goes too deep, as does the 36 as well. So both going too wide now. So Dylan Tarboten under attack. He was, of course, fighting for that third place, but he may be in trouble here. Christos Sakunas ready to strike as we come onto the main straight. And of course, you've got three more cars coming across the line, all within 1 second of each other. Down into turn 1 once more. Very tricky corner to get right. You need to perfect that momentum, that entry speed. And the 57 trying the outside line. That means he's going to get a nice cut for turns 2 and 3, which he does, closing right up to the rear bumper of that 36 blue McLaren 720S, powering down onto the back straight and towards sector 2. He's gaining, and probably going to go for the inside line, which he does. Here comes the 5th place car, the 57, down the inside line into turn 6, both hugging the apex as much as possible. Looks like the Porsche struggled to get up to speed because that McLaren, hugging the inside line, swoops back across to the racing line, saying, I'm going to have that racing line, thank you very much. That's where you want to be for this next corner. M Technology in the background there, not one to be dismissed. That 41 currently being driven by Martin Ulrich, currently sitting in P6, but no doubt looking ahead and waiting for the opportune moment to move up the order. Having said that, he goes wide on the exit of turns 10. That's going to cost him a few tenths compared to the Porsche ahead. Once again, it's going to be a drag race down to turns 14. Who's going to have the most ponies? Not able to get alongside for the braking zone. That's bunching up the pack quite nicely, though, as the 57 and the 41 try to find an opportunity. The 41 spinning the rear wheels, trying to get back up to speed. And on board with the 41 for the end of this lap. All starting lap 5 now as they come down into turn 1. Once again, you couldn't put a piece of paper between all of these cars. They're all so tightly packed. Battles going on pretty much throughout the entire top 7 positions, other than Daniel Vidamari, who seems to be able to extend that lead. He's using every bit of opportunity he has to drive away from the rest of the competition because he knows that they are fighting further down the order, and that means that he can focus on his job, which is post those decent lap times and get away from the rest of the field. So he's currently leading by 3.3 seconds. Rfactor2 at the car behind, which is the next competitive car. Both are in Porsches, so it's down to driver ability and their setup knowledge for this circuit here. And then we've got Dylan Tarboten fighting with Christos Sakunas at the moment, the two McLaren 720Ss, and they're going for it as well. Then we've got Chris Gonzalez in 5th place. He's for Fair Racing. And then you have the 41 with Martin Ulrich for M Technology in 6th. Team Rookie Monsters are close behind as well in P7. Simon Marshall driving that machine. And then 89 is the second of the Autumn Motorsports cars. We've just lost the 99, which is unfortunate. Not too sure what happened to them. They might have had a spin or a collision somewhere. But they weren't fighting for position. As far as I'm aware, they were following Daniel Vidamari within slipstream distance before it all went haywire. I'm not too sure how it ended. Here we go, slipstream in effect for the 36 McLaren as he comes down towards turns 14 or the inside line, and he will go deep into the corner perhaps. No, just able to make the apex by the skin of his teeth. The 12 also tucks himself behind, not able to get the undercut and retake that position. So the 36, Christos Sakunes, on to 3rd place and the last remaining podium position here so far at Shanghai. Number 12 using all the runoff area available. The rules for the curbing, for those that are wondering, is you're allowed to stay on the red and white stuff. As long as you've got 2 wheels on that, then you are within the track limits. Back into turn 1. Brake discs glowing as they try to maximise the car's potential here. And Gregor Spilat seems to be getting away. Now the question is, can Christos Sakunas power down and catch up to the back of that Porsche? He seems to have a good set of pace at the moment. Last lap times, we'll get them up for you now while we're watching this action unfold. So far though, it's Dylan Tarboton that's slowly losing ground compared to the rest of the grid. And we have the Porsche from Fair Racing, M Technology and Rookie Monsters all trying to move up the order at the same time within a second of each other. Let's have a look at the last lap times from Gregor Spilat on the board. So last time he went by on lap 5 was a 2:04.1, which is very quick indeed considering they're all on high fuel loads. And if we go all the way down to Christos Sakunas, it's a 2:04.2. So that McLaren is setting extremely competitive times. He just needs to find an extra tenth or two, and then he will start to gain on the 2nd place team of Secura Racing. So all to play for here for the Rookie Monster driver. And no doubt going to be pushing that McLaren to the utmost of its ability to get as many points as he possibly can. Now the question is, where is Dylan Tarboton, because he is behind by just a few tenths of a second, but not gaining any ground though. Still 0.6 seconds as they come into the braking zone. Look behind though, because Chris Gonzalez is under attack as well. That Porsche is... Oh, Team Rookie Monsters going up the inside of Martin Ulrich and that team M Technology Audi R8. That's demoted them down into 7th place. What a move there by the Aston Martin driver, and just put it all on the wire there, because that's one of the corners, turns 14. You really need to be the last of the late breakers, but if you overcook it, then you can easily lose a second or two. So masterfully done. Knew how much he could push that Aston Martin, and just seized the opportunity with both arms there. He's going to try and get the Porsche now as well. Simon Marshall on a charge at the moment on this last lap. Not able to get alongside just as of yet, but he might have a look down into turns 5. No, can't get alongside. The Porsche defending well, but he's going to get the undercut for sector 2. All powering down towards turn 7. He's going to have the outside line, which is not where he wants to be. That Aston Martin, definitely the faster car, as those tyres have now come into their prime. Inside for turn 8, the Porsche now is at a disadvantage, really pushing the limits of that track limits there, right onto the white lines of turns 8, and he nearly goes off. And of course there is Gross and M Technology go through as well, running wide deep into turns 9, and he seizes that opportunity. What a move there, knew exactly where the Porsche was going to end up, and moves up into P6. So Fair Racing having a bad time so far, lost 2 positions in 1 lap alone here. I've just had a warning for the 89, which is currently sitting in P8, and that's Alton Motorsports. So a warning for forcing another car off track. So we didn't actually see that, unfortunately, but I'm sure they're keeping a close eye on the action unfolding behind. And there's a car going wide at the bottom of the hill there. Daniel Ersling going, oh, that might have been Paul Holt. Paul Holt losing out several positions there. The 33 currently all the way down in P9. That's allowed the 89 to go through. I think he just outbraked himself coming into the corner. It looks like we've got a bit of breathing space here now for the top few positions. And we've got some action unfolding for the top few positions as well. Okay, so we've got Daniel Vidamari, the leading car with Team RSI, and Gregor Spilak behind by 1 second. So action starting to heat up for the lead of this race. And close behind as well is Christos Sakunas for Team Rookie Monsters. He wants in on the action as well. The podium positions are about to undergo a dramatic change, it seems, as he's closing the gap down quite rapidly to that 177 Porsche in second place. Got to keep an eye on the battle for the mid-pack as well. 0.7 seconds both ways here for P5. Dylan Tarboten holding on to 4th place in that McLaren number 12. But that Aston Martin looking ferociously quick as it comes out of Sector 2 there. M Technology in that 41 are also close behind by 0.5 seconds as we come into Sector 3. Slipstream will pay dividends here as well. Christos Sakunas for 3rd place, closing up ever so slightly, 0.7 seconds going down the back straight. You can't fixate on any part of this track at the moment. There's battles going on left, right and centre, up and down the order. And that's why I love this GT3 grid for Pacific GT. It's just so competitive and it always promotes close racing. And of course with no GT500s to worry about. Oh, the Aston Martin nearly rear ends the number 12. Clearly knows how much he can get away with that, but you just saw him start to wiggle with the steering wheel. Just a bit of panic setting in there with Simon Marshall in the cockpit of that car, but it paid off in the end because he's really attached to the back of that McLaren and ready to make a move come turn 1. Dylan moving all the way over to the left hand side of the track. He wants that optimal racing line. Probably knows that Simon won't move up the inside of turn 1. It's a very tricky corner to get cleanly done. Still pretty much the same kind of gap that we're used to. Oh, a bit of a wiggle from the Aston Martin. It is a slightly unsettling car compared to the rest of the options available. The McLaren probably being the most stable among the choices of GT3 packages. The Aston Martin, though, very nice to drive, but in my personal opinion, once you start to push it over that edge, it does like to bite quite fiercely in some ways. So he's got to be careful how much he decides to chew, because the car might decide to spit him out on the other end. Right, let's go to the fight for the podium positions, because Christos Sakunas is challenging Gregor Spilak in that 177 at the moment. The rear end of that McLaren was oversteering just slightly on the exit of turns 10. Incredible stuff and well controlled. And Danny Vidamari is just ahead as well. So the pack seems to be condensing once again. We had a small breather where the leaders were getting away, and that seems to be reversing now. So it is the big crunch, as they say in physics, as it's all starting to come closer and closer together again. Christos Sakunas in the slipstream, but Gregor Spilak's going to have a slipstream of his own as well, as he's right behind Daniel Vidamari and that Porsche in the lead. Christos Sakunas peeping down into the inside line, too far back, way too far back to make a move, but probably just letting Gregos know by showing his face in those side mirrors that, hey, right, I'm close, I'm ready to pass. And that's going to put pressure on Gregor Spilak, as he was charging down the leader and probably wasn't expecting a challenge from behind, but now it's a three-way race for the lead here, and that's going to put in pressure on both ways, because not only has he got to attack, but he now has to defend as well. Of course, the person that's going to lose out the most is Daniel Vidamari. He is being hunted down as we speak. Only a few seconds, or tenth of a second, between the two of them. Gregor Spilak gaining at least 3 tenths on the first turn alone. So incredible pace shown here by the second and third place drives. And who is going to come out on top? Let's have a quick peep into the live time and make sure we're not missing any of the action unfolding further behind. and we actually have, unfortunately, so Simon Marshall, which is the 41 from Team Rookie Monsters, has moved up into P4, and Dylan Tarboton has a tank slapper of a moment there. That's on the exit of turn 6, and that means that M Technology and Martin Ulrich move up into P5. Shame to see. Valiant performance there from Dylan and RSA Sim Racers, doing everything he can to hold on to these positions, but it seems that once the tyres have warmed up, that particular McLaren seems to be struggling for that overall pace. Back to the lead battle though, because they're coming down to sector 3. There isn't much space between the two of them as they come back onto the back straight of the circuit. This could be where Christos Akunas is going to take this position away from Gregor Spielat. He has the momentum, he has the slipstream, and it's all down to that McLaren's engine bay to do the rest of the work for him. That Porsche though seems to be getting away at this stage. Coming down to the braking zone of turn 14. No passes, no opportunities presenting themselves. That Porsche extremely strong in a straight line. Is he going to find an opportunity in turn 1? And look at Simon Marshall in the background there, that Aston Martin closing the gap, it seems. Get their lap times on the board for us. If he is actually closing up to this battle that we've got going on here for the lead. So his last lap time was a 2:04.7. Christos Akunas' last lap was a 2:05.3. So that traffic situation with Gregos ahead is starting to condense the pack. Simon Marshall in that Aston Martin will soon turn this three-way battle into a 4-1. So keep your eyes peeled on the action. Battle still going on between Martin Ulrich and Dylan Tarboton as well. Chris Gonzalez and the rest of them. Daniel Ersling all the way down in P9 and 10 are also battling for position. You've got the number 7 from F1 Bros Racing, the sister car, also battling for P12. So there's battles going up and down the order, but we're going to fixate on the leaders here for the time being. There's Simon Marshall in the background, just closing ever so slightly this time by. And only 0.3 seconds now separating the top 3 cars. Down the back straight once more, Daniel Vidimari once more on the defensive, and this McLaren once again unable to close the gap to Gregor Spielat as he is using that slipstream ahead. And could we see a lead change? Here comes Gregor Spielat. Oh, they've all disappeared. There he is again. Too wide into turns 14. He's got the lead. The car is ahead. And here comes the McLaren as well. Both cars go through. Daniel Vidimari is in one foul swoop, demoted into 3rd place. The McLaren will get enough power off the line to prevent a comeback from the Team RSI driver. That is an amazing turn of events on this particular lap, from 1st all the way down to 3rd in one corner. Christos Akunas not giving any room to breathe for Gregor Spielat. Gregor's probably thinking that he would have a moment or two to get away from the McLaren driver, but that's not going to happen. He's still on the heels of that yellow Porsche and ready to take the lead of this race. What an incredible performance that was. Where is Simon Marshall though? He's probably eagerly awaiting for his moment as well. He's got a bit of work to do if he's to catch up first though. The Aston Martin looks slightly closer. Let's have a look on the live timing, see what the verdict is. 1.8 seconds to make up before he can join the action here at the front of the grid, following Gregor Spielat for the time being though. Go down to P10 for just one split moment, because we've got a battle between Ultima Motorsports and the 87 from Daniel Ersling. Daniel Ersling is actually our championship leading car, so not too sure what's happened there between the two of them. Oh no, he is ahead just ever so slightly, and you've got the sister car behind. That's the number 7 from Tim Schaefer. So definitely one to keep an eye on as well. But yeah, the 87 are championship leaders with 50 points. Only 6 points difference between them and Secura Racing. And the way Gregor-Spilak is driving at the moment, they're going to be in a position to take that away from them before we head to the final at Okayama. Coming down the back straight, here comes Chris Dasakunas. Is he going to deny Gregor-Spilak a victory here? Both going too wide into turns 14. There's a bit of grass there on the outside line for the McLaren. Bit of a bump between the two of them. And McLaren takes the lead, goes down the inside line of the final corner. Will Gregor-Spilak come back though, because he would have been able to get the better run off the final corner down towards turn 1 rather. It's a drag race. Ooh, Gregor-Spilak just nearly tapped the back end there of the McLaren, but able to just stay away. He knows exactly what he can get away with. And Christos Dasakunas powering early with that McLaren. That thing looks like it's glued to the floor here at China. Absolutely great stuff. Now here comes Simon Marshall closing that gap now down to 1 second as we enter lap 13 of this race. Trevor Holden as well, the second DNF of this race. So Madness Racing in the 98 are not able to continue. That means we've only got 14 cars to get to the finish with 1.5 hours left. Now that gap is starting to widen one way, with the McLaren making good distance between himself and the Porsche. But in the background there, that Aston Martin is getting closer and closer. Amazingly, the Porsche isn't able to make up any ground on the back straight to the leader. He's maintaining that gap of about half a second at the moment. Let's have a look further down the order. We've got battles underway all the way down into the last remaining position, in fact, as they come down the back straight. Here comes the number 3 Chaos Engineering car and the 72. That's fighting for position. One gets on the grass. Oh, the number 3 very violently losing control on the rear end. And no changes for position there. Let's go back to the midfield, because we've got both the Fair Racing cars undergoing civil war. So this is the 33 and 57. Now the 57 had a good start to this race, but unfortunately dropped back down the order. So bad news for them. Now it seems that they're going to be pitched in a battle between one another. 57 started ahead of the 33, so he's got a lot of work to do if he's to regain those positions once more. We still have a battle for the lead of this race as well, so we won't stray our eyes too much, because we don't want to miss any of the action there. Have a look, see where the rest of the action is unfolding for you. We've got Danny Vidimari trying to regain that second place from Gregor-Spilak. That slipstream coming into effect as he came down the back straight, and that's allowed him to be within striking distance. 0.4 seconds coming into turns 1. Simon Marshall still closing the gap behind. You can see him in the distance now within 1 second of the podium positions. Meanwhile, Christos Acuna is in that 36 McLaren, just gaining an advantage. Nothing seems to be able to match the pace that he has on the grid at the moment. He's just pulling away from the rest of the grid. So it all lies on the rest of the remaining positions, second and third up for grabs. You got to think as well how much of that McLaren, the tyres, for example, how the tyres going to handle being driven in such a way. Is he going to have to back off sooner or later to preserve the tyre life before we get the first round of pit stops here at Shanghai? A very demanding circuit, especially through Sector 2 here. Tyre degradation and tyre wear is going to be extremely high on those fronts as the weight of the car is pushed down to each corner as they flow through as quickly as possible. Benavid Amari trying to find a way past, knows that this isn't the moment. Oh, and he actually gets onto the curb too aggressively. And the problem with that curbing on the inside line there, especially at turns 9 and 10, is that it pulls you away from the apex, pulls you away of the direction that you want to go. And that's exactly what happened there to Danielle. And that's unfortunate because now Simon Marshall is within striking distance in that Aston Martin. Rookie Monsters looking for a podium position here in GT3. It'll be their first one of the season if they're able to pull it off. Or their second one even, sorry. They did get a podium on the last one. They came third, but looking to improve this time by. Don't forget about M Technology. They're close behind in that Audi R8 as well. A little peep from Simon Marshall, thinking about that manoeuvre down the inside, but too far back. Just got to wait one more lap. Clearly has the pace in that Aston Martin and needs to wait patiently for the door to be opened. The apex of turns 2 very nicely, trying to get the undercut for turn 3, get on the power nice and early. That Aston Martin having to counter steer to the right hand side to stop the rear from overtaking the front end. And he is actually closer at this present moment in time. Gets a nice cut on the apex, sorry. Whereas David Amari seems to be struggling just ever so slightly in the Porsche. Team RSI on the defensive once more from the start of this race. Qualified amazingly, but a bit of pace missing here in the second half of the first stint. Perhaps already 30 minutes gone, and we're still no closer to deciding who's going to come home victorious here. A lot of points up for grabs. You've got 4 teams all vying for that second place podium position. Christos Acuna still extending that lead for the time being. Separating the top 3 cars, or top 5 cars rather, is 4 seconds. We'll go back to second place, and it's only 1 and a bit seconds. Here comes Simon Marshall making the manoeuvre on David Amari. Team RSI unable to do anything about it. The track is so wide here at Shanghai. You are sitting duck if you don't get the slipstream. Down onto the inside line goes the Aston Martin, and Team Rookie Monsters, driven by Simon Marshall, moves up into third place in GT3. Now he's got a lot more work to do because Gregor Spilat for Secura Racing is just ahead as well. And David Amari goes wide on the exit of the last corner. M Technology trying to seize an opportunity before they get to turn 1, but the Audi R8 doesn't have the power to get alongside for the apex. Things seem to be going from bad to worse for Team RSI here. Gets on the power nice and early once more. Able to make a bit of breathing room between him and the Audi. using all the track that's available here. Oh, and a bit of a snap of the brakes there as David Amari brakes early compared to what it looks like the 41 was aiming for. Audi is very strong under braking, so tried to make a manoeuvre or tried to gain some ground in turn 9, just backfired a bit as he had to slam the brakes. Very lucky he didn't spin out there because the front of the car looked very unsettled with that sudden change. And Simon Marshall trying to get the advantage on Gregor Spielat here, so further action happening ahead of the field. Look at Christos Takunas driving away into the distance there up ahead in that 36 McLaren, but here comes the fight for second place. Gregor Spielat gets a bad exit of the last corner. Simon Marshall alongside for turn 1. It's going to be a drag race down into the apex, but the Porsche will have the advantage as it has the inside line just about ahead of that number 41. But here comes Simon Marshall using the momentum to move up on the inside. Nearly gets the job done, but shut the door by the Porsche just ahead. Ooh, bit of a tank slapper there for the Aston Martin from Team Rookie Monsters. Able to hold it nicely. Doesn't lose too much ground in the process. Coming through sector 2, holding position nicely. Aston Martin not able to gain any ground at the moment. Bearing in mind we've got the battle behind as well. That's for 4th place on the grid. Martin Ulrich trying to make some ground on Daniel Vidamari. Better exit out of turn 10 though by the Audi, gaining some ground. Will he make a move before we get onto the back straight? I personally wouldn't if I was him. Wait for that moment to open, as you'll have the slipstream coming down into turns 14, which he does. Heeds my advice ever so wisely and waits for his moment. Here comes the slipstream, and we've got Gregor Spielat under attack from the Aston Martin. Let's go on board for that. Gaining ever so slightly, Gregor Spielat defending. Trying to get the undercut there on the Porsche, struggling for grip as they're now too wide coming into the corner. In the meantime, behind, M Technology take the position away from Daniel Vidamari. They both outbrake themselves, and in the meantime Gregor Spielat defends that position, but only by the skin of his teeth. That Aston Martin is right up on the rear bumper of the 177, looking to go too wide again, which they do. The Aston Martin has a few extra ponies under the bonnet compared to the Porsche, it seems, and going up the inside line. Position is made. He's in second place officially according to the live timing, and he takes that position, swooping down into the apex of turn 2 and demoting Secure Racing into 3rd place. What a move. Good performance there from Team Rookie Monsters. M Technology on a storm as well, moving up to P4. That's Team RSI now from 1st all the way down into 5th from qualifying. Not a good day for them, and M Technology are going to be the next team to fight for a podium position if they can get the work done and catch up to the back of Gregor Spielat. What a race we have here this afternoon, ladies and gents. Half an hour, 40 minutes in, and we've got action unfolding up and down the field, all for the top positions as well. It is so competitive here this afternoon, it is unreal, and Shanghai is providing the battleground that is promoting all of this action as well. It's absolutely incredible stuff to watch. It's just unfortunate that we only have 14 running machines here with us this afternoon. Here comes a battle for 6th place. This is Paul Holt and Dylan Tarboton. Dylan Tarboton, we haven't been viewing them for quite some time. Of course, they were on the podium, but just like Team RSI, they're slowly being pushed back down the order. That Audi from Fair Racing is on a charge as well. He's going to have the slipstream coming down the back straight and could make the swap for position. Slipstreaming effects. Is he going to be able to make the move down the inside? Moves over to the right. And could possibly too wide. Here we go. He's making the move. Braking late in the Audi R8. Here comes Dylan trying to get the undercut once more, but not able to do so. The 87, the car that we was viewing, that is our championship leader in 8th place with Daniel Ersling behind the wheel, is also catching up to the back of this battle. So it's going to be a three-way race in a few moments' time as well. Dintar Boatin trying to go around the outside this time by coming into turn 1 for laps 20 of this race. Not able to get the speed or the grip from that McLaren though, and just tucks himself back behind the 33. That Audi looks planted in the exit of the corner, whereas the McLaren seems to be wiggling slightly on the rear axle. Just means he loses out on a few attempts coming down into sector 2 in the progress. Let's go back to the podium positions, because Gregor Spillat has lost some ground to Simon Marshall now, who is on a charge. Last lap was a 2:04.5 from the Aston Martin driver, and Christos Akunas needs to pick up the pace, because sooner or later that Team Rookie Monster car will soon be fighting for the lead as well. McLaren is set in 2:05.1s. So far it is Simon Marshall who's setting the pace here this afternoon in the midway point of this stint. Of course, we're coming up to the time as well where we are likely to see some of the cars come into the pit lane. About 18 minutes or so left, and then we will get the round of pit stops, and then it will be a drag race to the finish, or at least a sprint race to the finish, as this is already, but it seems, because here comes M Technology trying to catch up to Gregor Spillat. Gregor Spillat last minute goes defensive as the Audi moves over to the right, goes too wide. Will he be able to get the undercut though, as they power down towards the last corner? No, he's going to tuck himself behind, not able to get the momentum going there for the time being, but definitely the advantage is towards the Audi. Looks like the early battles that Gregor Spillat was involved in may have spent his tyres just ever so slightly. Obviously still able to set good lap times, but he might be at a disadvantage at the end of this stint when the fuel load is at its lightest. Oh, and a mistake there from Gregor Spillat, and that means that M Technology move up into position. That's them onto the podium spots with the 41 Audi. And that's going to be a kick in the teeth there. So both Gregor Spillat and the 13 from Team RSI are going down in the order, currently occupying 4th and 5th respectively. Last lap by M Technology was a 2:05.2. Looks like Christos Akunas is responding to the Aston Martin of Simon Marshall. 2:04.7 was the last lap he went by, whereas Simon Marshall was a 2:05.2. So they're exchanging best laps so far, exchanging pace. Looks like they're not able to gain much ground at the moment. The gap between the two cars for first and second is 5 seconds to be exact, as the live timing just updates itself. Bit of a mistake there from Gregor Spillat as well. Seems a bit frustrated that he's losing these positions as he comes out of turns 10, wheels spinning. Could there be an opportunity here for Daniel Vidimari to take advantage? He will now have the slipstream of the car ahead. And they're both Porsches, so they've got the same horsepower here this afternoon. It only comes down to their setup knowledge and how they've tuned their cars for this particular round. Going on at the end of the order as well. This is between Liam Racing and the number 9 coming down the back straight. No positions or exchanges made, unfortunately, but that Aston Martin will be able to make a move sooner or later. back to the start though. Rfactor2, let's ride along with the leader for a small period of time to admire his pace at the moment. Last lap 204.7 once again. Simon Marshall, however, 204.5. So he is ever so slowly but surely gaining ground on our leader here. And probably around 15 minutes left until they all dive into the pit lane for the one and only pit stop that's required to get to the checkered flag. And as we said, that Aston Martin extremely competitive on low fuel loads. Let's find some battles that are ongoing at the moment. So we've got the battle between Race.BST and Daniel Vidamari, of course, the two Porsches that have gone all the way from first and second down to fourth and fifth, unfortunately. But still going strong, still setting good lap times. Their personal bests were 204s and even a 203 from Daniel Vidamari. So his personal best is a 203.7, which is the fastest lap of the race. But his last lap time was a 205.5, so it seems to be in the, once the tyres have warmed up, once the degradation has begun to set in, that the Porsches are struggling here at Shanghai. Of course, all the weight is in the rear of the car. That's where the engine is located, and all that weight is going into the rear axle. So the front end of the car is going to struggle, especially in these high-speed corners here. Whereas the Aston Martin, of course, the engine's located where it's supposed to be in the front, and that means that the weight is going onto those front tyres. That means more grip, especially when those tyres begin to wear down ever so slightly. So that's where the advantage, I believe, where the advantage for the Aston Martin is coming from. Now going back further down the order, we have missed an overtake, and that's between Dylan Tarboton and Daniel Ersling, the two McLarens, both the 87 and the number 12. That's been an exchange for 7th place in class, so that's one that we unfortunately missed. Oh, the number 12 getting very happy on the rear end. Luckily all under control though, as he continues all the way down into P8 now for Dylan Tarboton and that McLaren. Of course, there is still the tactical option that he can play with the pit stop if he decides to undercut, maybe get some new tyres, because the way that he's treating those rears, they're not going to be in a fit state to double stint those. He is still setting decent lap times, just sounds like I'm talking him down inside the number 12 there. He's still setting 205.6s, so that's still on pace with the rest of the grid here, but it's just so competitive this afternoon in the GT3s that you simply cannot let a 10th go by without having a fight for it, because that's how fast these guys are here. And unfortunately, he just seems to be in an awkward position where he's fighting through the pack at the moment, or trying to defend his positions as best he can until the next pit stop comes along. Going back to Daniel Vidamari and Race.BST though, seems like that gap is just ever so slightly starting to widen. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 cars coming down the main straight, or the start-finish line, should I say. And into the pits comes Daniel Vidamari, the first of many. And he's going to come in with 1 hour and 11 minutes remaining. That is a bold move there from the RSI driver. That means he's going to have fresher tyres compared to the rest of the grid. He's going for new rubber as well as obviously a full fuel tank. And on board with the leader, of course, Rfactor2 still going strong. Gap has come down to 4.5 seconds, so Simon Marshall slowly but surely closing that gap down as best he can. Bit of a wiggle from the back end of the McLaren as he comes out of turn 10. Seems to be one of the corners that are more exposed to that, should I say. Using all the curbing available there inside that 720S. Needs to be careful about track limits though, because corner cutting is reviewed after the race, but doesn't seem to be going too far with it. Simon Marshall just coming onto the back straight now. And in the background there we saw M Technology now in third place. Great performance from them so far this afternoon. Aston Martin and Audi, a different manufacturer, all on the different podium positions, which is great to see in the balanced performance package that we've got here from Studio 397. So it's McLaren, Aston Martin, Audi, and then Porsche for the moment. Paul Holt coming up into P5, of course, after Daniel Vidimari went into the pit lane. So he is currently occupying the last of the top 5. 87 from Daniel Ersling and F1 Bros Racing. Just about a second and a bit behind. Of course, they want to be able to make sure that they can get as many of these positions as possible. They are championship leaders here for the series in GT3. They're going to have to do everything they can to get on to those decent points. Otherwise, Gregor Spielat, who is currently in 4th place, will be taking the lead as we go towards Akiyama, which is the final round of the championship. Now we're at the part of the race now where things will start to widen up just ever so slightly, of course, as tactics unfold. We know that Daniel Vidimari is already come into the pit lane. He's come out all the way at the bottom of the field in P14. Of course, we've had 2 DNFs so far from Alta Motorsports and Madness Racing. So those are the only 2 retirements in this field so far. We're currently focusing on the number 7 machine, which is the Porsche from F1 Bros Racing, because they're battling with the 57 with Chris Gonzalez from Fair Racing. So they're having a bad day as well, because they're falling down the order from qualifying. Now, will he get the slipstream? He should do, because he's 0.7 seconds behind coming down onto the back straight. Seems to lose a bit of time there. That's not going to be anywhere near close enough to get a decent slipstream against the next car ahead. So let's go up the order back towards Daniel Ersling, because he's closing the gap down to that Audi being driven by Paul Holt at the moment. Bit of damage to that McLaren, it seems, on the front fender, I think I saw. Have to wait for a better camera angle to show us the details. But I think, I swear I saw just a slight bit of crumpling on one of the pieces of bodywork. Yeah, there's a bit of crumpling on the rear right, which was at the start of the race. Yeah, the rear right fender appears to have suffered some minor damage, it seems. And I wonder how that is affecting the handling of that McLaren. That was at the start of the race. We was actually watching it when it happened. It was into the last corner when there was a bit of side swiping going on. Daniel Vidimari setting the fastest lap of the race, which isn't too surprising, as he is now on fresh rubber. That is a full fuel tank at the same time, and that's a 202.283. So could this be the magic button that he's unlocked there, because that is at least 2 seconds faster than the rest of the field at present. The question is, how long is he going to make those tyres last? They're just coming down the back straight now. Here comes Simon Marshall, still gaining ground on our leader. Gaps, oh no, actually the gap has actually widened back up again to 5 seconds. So Christos Sakunas pushing with everything he has before he has to go into the pit lane. Here he comes now. Is he going to go in this time by? No, he's got a few more laps to do before he commits to the pit stop. And that that gap is now up to about 5.5 seconds coming across the timing line of this lap. Now on lap 27 of this race, and just coming up to the halfway mark here for round 3 of the Pacific GT. Let's go back to the battle for 8th place, because the gap has closed back up again to around 0.9 seconds. All running very wide into the last corner there. A lot of dust being kicked up from both the cars. The two Porsches not staying on track limits, and we've got the number 3 behind as well by the looks of things, but he's in P10, so that is for position. Ezio Gazzola in charge of that Aston Martin. Daniel Vidamari still the only one to come into the pit lane though at this moment in time, so I'm eager to see how the teams will respond based on his pace. And following the leader, Christos Sakunas. Now coming up to 4 minutes remaining before we have to come into the pit lane again. Is he going to come into the pit lane this time by, is the question. No, he's still going strong there. Last lap time for you is 2:04.6. So he's up the pace now as we come to the last few laps. Simon Marshall crosses the line behind, 2:04.5. So just a tenth faster on that particular time by. And then we've got M Technology closely following in the background as well, only 8 seconds off the leader, so it's extremely close here in the first hour of this race. We've had great action unfolding here this afternoon. It's been extremely close between the top teams. We've had a lot of action unfolding in the first 20 or so laps. It's only now, as we approach the first round of pit stops, that things are starting to quieten down just ever so slightly. Gregor Spielat is struggling in the Porsche as well. He's still hanging on to 4th place though and keeping pace, and that gap away from P5, which is still being driven by Paul Holt for Fair Racing. Looks like the Audi is of slightly faster pace at the moment. Gregor Spielat's last lap time was a 2:06.228. Paul Holt, meanwhile, 2:05.453. And as is Daniel Ersling as well. Now, Daniel Ersling was on the live timing as following the Audi. He's 2.5 seconds behind Paul Holt. So it looks like Gregor Spielat might be in a bit of trouble here as we come into the last few laps. He's going to be so eager to get some new rubber on all 4 corners of that Porsche as quickly as possible. And who can blame him, because that thing is struggling. Daniel Vidamari's working his way through the field again. Of course, remember that he's the only one that's come into the pit lane thus far, and he's setting a blistering pace. Last lap time was a 2:03.6. His personal best at 2:02.6, or sorry, 2:02.2 even. So that Porsche on fresh rubber is extremely quick. No surprise then that it qualified on pole position. It's just going too wide down the back straight with Alton Motorsports. That's the 89 with Alberto Zanotti behind the wheel, and he doesn't stand a chance against that 13 Team RSI car at this stage of the race. All for P11 in class, of course. The problem for Daniel Vidamari now is that he's going to have to look after those tyres very carefully, because if he decides to wear them out too quickly, then at the end of this race he will be struggling for grip and he may be a sitting duck. All that hard work, and here we have 3 cars in the pit lane. We've got Gregor Spielat in the pit lane as well, and he's about to be overtaken by Daniel Vidamari. Daniel Vidamari's done the undercut on all of them at this stage of the race, and he's gone all the way up into P7. And of course, Gregor Spielat was the car that was sitting in P4 here so far this afternoon, so he's done an incredible job to get that far up the grid. Now, has he done enough to claim that podium position back? Because up ahead is Martin Ulrich and Simon Marshall holding on to those podium positions. They haven't come into the pit lane just as of yet, but judging by how much ground Daniel Vidamari has made against Gregor Spielat, it may be a huge margin that he's about to make up. Here comes Gregor Spielat exiting the pit lane now, so that's a huge gap coming out of the pits. All the way up the road in Sector 2 is Daniel Vidamari for Team RSI. He may have just unleashed the best strategic move I've seen in a very long time. So currently sitting in P7. Last lap as he came by was a 2:04. We know that's because he was fighting traffic with Auto Motorsports in the 89 behind though. But all the way up into P7 now. Where is Christos Takunas? I suspect he's in the pit lane, which he is. There is the leading McLaren, the 36 from Team Rookie Monsters, as is Martin Ulrich as well. Simon Marshall is in the pits, so that's 3 cars all sitting neatly in a line, waiting for the tyres to be changed and for the fuel to be put back to the top. In the meantime, Paul Holt goes into the lead of the race. The Audi from Fair Racing is now in charge here this afternoon at Shanghai GP. And where is Daniel Vidamari in comparison to the teams? Coming through the last corner now. Is Christos Akunas back underway? No, he's not. Daniel Vidamari is going to take those positions back. The ones that he lost so quickly at the start of this race has now been regained. The amount of time that he's made up since exiting the pits is staggering here. Where is Christos Takunas though? Because he's still in the pit lane as well. The 72 from Liam Racing is going past as we speak, and there's a lot of changes going on here. And this just goes to show how competitive the GT3 field is. It is extremely good to watch because no matter where they are on grid, you could be fighting for P10 or 12, but they always go up into the top 5 at some stage, depending on how the tactics unfold. So at the moment, the leading McLaren, or the one that was leading, has gone all the way down into P7 at the moment. Gregor Spielat is still behind down the order in P10, so Gregor's not able to replicate the tactical manoeuvre made by Daniel Vidamari. But back underway and no doubt looking to make up some ground again. We still have a few cars due to come into the pit lane, of which is the 89, 72 and the number 9, which are behind for 4th, 5th and 6th at the moment. So expect them to go back down the order and for the 36 to make its way into those positions. Simon Marshall's come out behind in position 8 as well, so not many changes there for the top 3 cars, or were the top 3 cars. And we need now to eagerly await to see what happens when the other cars go into the pit lane. So only 56 minutes remaining here for round 3. And now we must wait until Auto Motorsports, Liam Racing and the number 9 McLaren behind all enter the pit lane. Chaos Engineering have actually taken the lead of this race as well, because they haven't decided to pit just as of yet. The 33 with Paul Holt has just been overtaken by Daniel Vidamari, and the 33 going down the order quite quickly, but the 36 coming across the start-finish line as well. Don't think anyone has the bravery to double stint the tyres here this afternoon. Auto Motorsports also in, as is the number 9. And here comes the 36 all the way back up into P4 now. Fairly large gap between himself and the rest of the order though. Let's have a look at the gaps between the two of them. So it's around 16 seconds to Daniel Vidimari in the Porsche ahead. That McLaren is going to have to fly in order to catch that 13 machine. Keep a close eye on the live timing, ladies and gents, and the fastest lap board, because I have a suspicion that Christos Sakunas is going to put everything on the line here at this very moment to get that McLaren back onto the lead of this race. Simon Marshall as well, in the meantime, is not doing so well in terms of the round of pit stops. He's lost quite a bit of time, in fact 2.5 seconds as he exited the pit lane. So he's got a bit of work to do to regain some of that lost ground in that Aston Martin. Seemed to have the pace last time by. We saw them fight it out because he was gaining ground just ever so slightly. Got to about 4.5 seconds before the pit stops occurred. But it's all been reset, and in fact he's lost quite a bit of time now. Definitely another one to keep focused on, as is Martin Ulrich as well. He's close behind Simon Marshall by 2 seconds in that Audi R8. Looks like Simon Marshall is starting to get the Aston Martin into its prime. Moving up the order as one of the cars is in the pit lane. That is Liam Racing there. So they've decided to come in at last in the 72 Aston Martin. And still leading the way, for some reason, is the number 3. But here comes Daniel Vidimari, of course, on the fresher rubber in his Porsche. That Aston Martin is not going to stand a chance here. So it's only a matter of time before he retakes the lead of this race. Amazingly, what a tactical full move. Third time lucky trying to get my English in order there. It's only 2.5 seconds coming down into Sector 3. In fact, now 1.5. So he's just chopped off an entire second in Sector 2 alone. Daniel Vidimari really pushing the limits of that Porsche, and he knows that he's on a time limit, of course, because the cars behind are extremely competitive. Last lap by Daniel Vidimari was a 2:03.9. Christos Sakunas, although not setting a personal best lap, is on 2:03.007, so it's already 0.9 seconds faster in that McLaren. So Daniel Vidimari needs to push as much as he can, while at the same time looking after the tyres of that Porsche. They do wear considerably more, again, as I said, where the engine is located in the rear of the chassis. That's going to put weight on the rear of the tyres. That means that you get better drive out of the corners, but at the same time the fronts, not so good news for them, because we want the front end to turn in. It's not got the weight to push down on the corner that matters, especially in Sector 2 here at Shanghai. So that's going to be the weakness here for the Porsche in comparison to the McLaren and the Aston Martin. Still, having said that, obviously a very competitive package, as it is leading so far in the GT3 class. Now, how much work does he have to do in order to make this work? Christos Sakunas is currently 17 seconds behind our leader here, with just 51 minutes to go. It's quite a bit of time to get the job done. That's plenty of laps to move up the order and set those all-important lap times. Daniel Vidimari's last lap was a 2:03.8. Christos Sakunas 2:03.6. So things starting to even out. Simon Marshall in his prime with a 2:03.4. And if you go all the way down into 7th and 8th, they too are setting 2:03s. So again, once displaying just how competitive the grid here in GT3 is. See if we've got any battles unfolding further down the order. We've got Paul Holt, who's only around one of Pim van Ark, who's just done a driver change with his colleague. which is Chris Gonzalez, now coming out behind the number 7 of F1 Bros Racing. That's going to be for the lower positions here, but it doesn't mean it's no less important. Ninth place, which will get them a fairly large chunk of points, because they will go all the way down into 15th place, the points here at CFEG. Let's have a look where they are in terms of the standings. So the 57 is all the way down in 13th place, unfortunately. 5 points on the board, so not the best of performances over the last 2 rounds, but if they can get onto 9th place, that's 8 points on the board for them that they can take onwards to Okayama. Still in the way is the number 7, and they won't make it easy for them. Tim Schaefer in charge of the F1 Bros Racing Porsche there, onto the cockpit view, and he will have the slipstream coming down the back straight. Oh, and a bit of lag there as one of the cars is teleporting around the circuit, but he gets the job done defending wise. Of course, the number 7 goes onto the inside line, just able to hold back that Porsche from Fair Racing. Pim van Ark's got a lot of work to do in order to make his way back up the order here, and I think that was the number 12 that was going all over the place. Number from Dylan Tarboten still going strong in that number 12. So currently sitting in 8th place, just up the road by about 5 or 6 seconds from the cars we were just viewing. Let's go back to Tim Schaefer though, because he is still under attack, going too wide. Here comes the Porsche down the inside of turn 1. Fortunately, we just missed it. And that is the position taken for the Fair Racing team there. 9th place, that's 8 points on the board going forward in the season if they can hold on to it. Still a lot of time to get the job done as well. They can easily move up towards P8, P7. We'll just have to wait and see how that unfolds. Go back to the leader for a quick moment, see how far that gap is to the 2nd place, and it's down to 10 seconds. That is an astonishing amount of progress there by Christos Ikunas in the 36 from Team Rookie Monsters. He's pushing that McLaren to the uppermost limits of what is physically possible. Let's have a look at the last laps. 2:04.3 for Daniel Vidamari, 2:03.3 for Christos Ikunas in the McLaren. So all a bit of rear end twitch there for him. That's going to hurt the tyres if he continues to push up to that extent. In the meantime, Simon Marshall is 6 or 7 behind as live timing just updates itself. His last lap was a 2:03.8, so the gap is widening as they came across the timing line. Martin Ulrich in the 41 from M Technology as well, 3 seconds adrift from the Aston Martin. Last lap time was a 2:03.8 as well, so they are evenly matched for 3rd place battle that's undergoing at the moment. What we're going to do, ladies and gents, is go for a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere as we bring back the action here from round 5 of the Pacific GT shortly after these adverts.